1. To accept this call, press 5. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
Hello? Hey, how
Hello?
you doing?
Hello, how you doing today? How you doing?
Good.
How's your day going?
Pretty good. A little bit later in the afternoon, so it's things have kind of slowed down a little bit, so that's a good thing.
All right, Crystal. I had you call back so we could do a second interview to touch on some things that we didn't touch on the first interview. You know.
Of course, yeah. And I felt that it was important to talk about the retaliation that I received from the Duke Lacrosse case, which is, to me, more important than the actual case itself, because that's what split me up from my family, and that's what actually led me in prison for now 11 years. So, I just kind of wanted to talk about how it all began and how they were able to get away with framing me for murder. My part in it as well. To begin with, I like to say that the reason why they charged me with first-degree murder to begin with was for retaliation in my role in the Duke Lacrosse case. They wanted me to look bad. They wanted to send a message to me and to society that the Duke name and the Duke structure was nothing to be fought against or to try to come up against. The power and privilege is not something that you can argue with or fight against. And which to me, I really had no choice because I was fighting for my life. The night of April the 3rd, when I got into the altercation with my live-in boyfriend, Reginald Dave, presented a perfect opportunity for them to frame me for murder. And like I said, when they found out, who I was, it all began when his cousin found out that I was the Crystal Mangum from the Duke Lacrosse case. And once the lead investigator found out who I was, they sent out the police cars, and that's when everything all began. I found out that Investigator Bond, the lead investigator who took the lead to charge me, was upset because her friend, Investigator Clayton and Investigator Hyman, were the ones that were in charge of the Duke Lacrosse case, and they ended up getting fired because they were at the center of it. And so she had a vendetta against me to begin with, and she should not have been involved in the murder case at all because she was biased in the beginning. So that pretty much set the stage for everything else. When about a year into being charged for murder, my attorney, Chris Shella, had given me the prosecution discovery, and my friend at the time, who's my fiance now, was able to go through the discovery, and he realized that the autopsy and the medical records weren't adding up. And that set the stage for a whole different investigation. So then we started investigating the medical issues. And then we realized that the autopsy was wrong, and that the autopsy was saying that he had injuries that the medical records, that were unsubstantiated in the medical records. So that set up red flags. So I filed several motions after firing my attorney and representing myself in jail. I filed several motions trying to get those charges dismissed. But Investigator Bond, who had the vendetta against me and used the Duke lacrosse case as leverage, she used the robbery charge to make it a first-degree murder charge. So they wouldn't drop either one of the charges, the larceny or the murder charge. So later on during my trial, I realized that the medical examiner said that he made a mistake on the autopsy. He says that my boyfriend died from an infection and that he didn't die from the actual stab wound. Initially in the autopsy, he said that he died from 6 different injuries, which is what the autopsy says. So he refuted his own autopsy. And I asked my attorney to question him on the stand, and he told me to be quiet, and I almost got thrown out of court on that day because I wanted to ask a question, and they wouldn't allow me to. I had to go through my attorney, and my attorney refused to allow me to speak. So he basically got away with perjuring himself. And like to this day, I don't understand, like, were there 6 different organs injured? The medical record says that there was only 1 organ injured. There are no pictures in the autopsy. None of this was answered during the trial. Dr. Nichols, who wrote the autopsy report, says that there was only 1 injury. There weren't 6 injuries, as he stated in the autopsy. So he admitted that what he'd written in the autopsy was incorrect, and he signed off on it. And no one called that into question. The judge, my attorney, the prosecution, no one. The jury didn't even have questions, so it just kind of went without notice. So at the end of the trial, that was one of the things that I wanted to bring up. So fast forward, years later, a well-renowned physician in 2019 wrote a report stating that my boyfriend died in a recovery course from alcohol withdrawal and not from the stab wound. And he says that because there were no pictures in the autopsy report, and because the autopsy report doesn't coincide with the medical records, that it can't be used. It should never have been used in court of law. And basically, he says that the manner of death should have been considered an accident and not a homicide. And the cause of death was an incorrect intubation from Duke Hospital. So basically, Duke Hospital was responsible for my boyfriend's death. So I tried to get Dr. Mandy Cohen. I wrote her a letter to Secretary of State in May of last year. I wrote her a letter asking her to asked the medical examiner's office to reopen my case, and she refused. But another lady, Dottie Ante, had her case opened in 2013, and she was exonerated after her husband died while she choked him, because they determined that he had a heart attack while she was choking him, so she wasn't responsible for his death. So my question was, how was that different from what happened with my boyfriend, where he died from alcohol withdrawal and not from the stab wound? No one argued that because she choked him and he died, that he was responsible. But they would argue that because I stabbed Reginald and he died, that I was responsible. The only difference between me and her is that I'm black and she's white. She did a year and I've done 11, and I have to do 4 more. So I wrote her a letter, and basically she ignored me, and so I had a representative, my fiance had a representative, to write to her, and she basically told him that she would not look into my case. So I'm still trying to bring awareness to my case, and it's still, to me to this day, it's shocking that it's gone this far. Like, for a fraudulent autopsy, that's the basis for my conviction for my conviction to have gone this long based on a fraudulent autopsy, to me is just overwhelming. I just can't believe that I'm still here. And then on top of that, I was defending myself. So you have, not only was I defending myself, but I'm in here for a crime that wasn't even committed based on retaliation because of my role in the Duke Lacrosse case. And before the Me Too movement, you know, I'm a black woman, and I went up against some powerful white men. But a lot of times, black women are forgotten in the midst, you know, because you have black men, and I love black men, and I stand behind black men, and I'm angry that black men are dying and being shot. And then you have white women who are being taken advantage of by rich and powerful men. But let's not forget our sisters out here, too. I mean, we all got to come together and stand against the privilege. You know, I mean, with one segment of society forgotten, that one piece of the puzzle, we're just not going to be as strong if we don't come together. I mean, let's not let society forget that one piece of the population is abused women and our minority women out here. So, I mean, I was done wrong, and I'm still being done wrong, and my kids are suffering. My health is declining, and I'm being punished for something that I had nothing to do with in both cases. I wasn't trying to harm Reginald. He was trying to harm me. I wasn't trying to harm the Duke Lacrosse team. They were trying to harm me. And yet I'm the one that's suffering. They're doing fine. I mean, you know, Reginald's not doing fine, but I didn't come after him. I was defending myself. And I know his family was upset with me, and I know that...
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Can you call me back so you can finish saying what you're saying? One more time?
Yeah.
Call me right back. Remember where you left off. Okay.
For complaint procedures or to block future calls, dial 1-8. Thank you for using Global Tel Link.
All right, Crystal, welcome back.
So,
can you continue?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me continue to tell my story. So I know that his family was upset with me, and I know that they lost their uncle, their son, their nephew, and the prosecution was using their loss and their pain to get a conviction. And what they did to the Day family was wrong, because the prosecution and the DA, they knew that I was innocent from day one. They had all the evidence. They had the autopsy report. They knew that I was innocent of the larceny of chosen action. They knew that there was no way that I stole money orders written out to the apartment complex where I lived and staffed my boyfriend in order to steal money orders written out to the apartment complex where I lived. And that caused an argument. They knew that, but they played on the Day's pain and their grief in order to make them angry so that they could come after me, and for retaliation for the Duke Cross case. And I'm upset over that too, because even though Reginald and I had a disagreement that night, I'm upset and I'm sorry about his death. He should not have passed away at such an early age. And for the prosecution to use his death, because to the prosecution, he was just another black man. And if I had been any other woman, his death would not have been an issue. And to be honest, I mean, I would not have probably have done a day in jail. And that was the part that was really upsetting me at how they played the Day family. And I wanted to reach out to them, and I wanted them to know that Duke Hospital was responsible for their loved one's death and not me. Only because I wanted to prove my innocence, but because I was upset that they were trying to cover up for Duke Hospital and the real people responsible for his death. So I want the truth to come out, for them to get closure, for society to know the truth about who Duke really is and the extent that they will go to, the people that they will harm to protect their name, the money that they will spend, the people that they will destroy their names in order to even to protect their name and to protect their riches, their fame. Dr. Wett's report should be public knowledge, and I want to find a way to get it out there and to have an investigation done into Dr. Nichols' autopsy report and the real cause of Reginald's death, which is Duke Hospital and medical malpractice and not a homicide. My kids have had to suffer the most. They are trying to make it on their own without their mom's guidance and leadership and love and support. And it's really hard for them right now. When I left, they were 7, 9, and 3, and it's been 11 years taken away from them that they'll never get back. But it's not too late to make it right. Like I said, this is retaliation before the Me Too era, but now during the Me Too era, let's not leave a segment of our population out. There's other women in here that have similar stories just like mine. And we all need to be heard, not judged, not prejudged or labeled, but really heard, and for people to just understand that things are not always just black and white. So I think our nation is tired of seeing one system of justice for the privileged and another system for the less privileged. And it's a time, for us to see everybody being treated equally, based on truth, mercy and truth. And not look at the differences that divide us, but the things that bring us together. I think that's why we, I don't want to get into politics or anything, but I think that's why we had a change in presidency, because we want to see something different. So, but yeah, Dr. Wett argued that, a lot of people said that because I stabbed Reggie that, and put him in the hospital and he died, that I was responsible for his death. But Dr. Wett wrote in his report that there was an intervening cause that broke the chain of events, and that was his episode with the delirium tremens related to alcohol withdrawal. Just like in the Dottie Ampty case, where Sherrod Ampty suffered a heart attack while he was being choked. So I'm just asking people to look at things from an honest point of view and from a fair point of view, and to just be fair, and not to have preconceived notions and biases based on what they've heard. And I want to thank you for your time and for allowing me to speak, and I hope that people get a better understanding of my innocence and why I feel like I'm innocent and why I feel like my case should be reevaluated and more should be done to look into my case, and that Dr. Wett's report should be taken into account. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions. You pretty much explained a great deal of information, very important information that people in general don't know and should know. And I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this part of your story to the community. Like you said, things like this goes on a lot in the criminal justice system, especially for African American people. And this is what's important about this second part of the interview, is to bring awareness to what really happened in your case. how your freedom was stolen from you because of something that they wrongly accused you for to cover up another case that happened prior. And like I said,
yeah,
I
basically,
to not being afraid and having the heart and the courage to share this with me and also with the people that's going to hear this interview.
thank you, and I hope I was able to explain things in a accurate way, in a coherent way, and able to help people to understand better. And hopefully in the future I have more time, and in my books I'll be able to explain more.
Can you tell the people that's going to listen to the interview the name of the books that you have written so far and where they can go find it?
Yes. Well, the first book that I wrote was in 2007, and it's already out. It's called Last Dance for Grace, and it's basically an autobiography from the time that I was a little girl up until the Duke lacrosse case. And it can be found on Amazon, and it can be found on Amazon and basically any other major book website. And the second book that I wrote is called His Story, Her Past, and it's basically a compilation of basically relationships that I've been in and how they've failed, both mistakes that I've made and mistakes that other people have made, and how we can learn to grow from each other, men and women. And the third book is called Last Plea for Grace, and it's basically about the time from the Duke lacrosse case up until now. And it talks about, of course, a little bit about the Duke lacrosse case, but mostly about my time in prison and people that I've met and how I spent my time in prison. And those two books haven't come out yet, but they should be out before this year is over.
All right, Crystal, but thank you for participating in this second interview, which is very important. And I want you, to keep your head up and keep praying. Things will work out for you. I know it. And, keep in touch with me, and we'll talk very soon.
Okay. Thanks, Vernon. It's always good talking to you.
All right. So, give me a call this week, and so we can talk some more. Okay?
Okay, I will. Okay.
All right, Crystal, enjoy your day. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.